Good afternoon, everyone. This is Caitlin from TechServe Alliance, and welcome to today's webinar, Stop Posting and Praying, Recruit Passive Candidates. There will be a question and answer session after the presentation, so feel free to write in any questions you want answered in the question box on the right side of your screen. We are also recording today's presentation, which will be available to TechServe members on the TechServe Alliance website and will be sent out in follow-up emails after the webinar. And with that, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today, Barb Bruno.
Thanks so much, Caitlin, and welcome everybody. I'm so happy to see a nice big group, signed up for this program. I sincerely feel that this is one of the most important training programs I'm going to do for TechServe. And so if you've got recruiters that are not in attendance at this particular webinar, please make sure that they listen to the recording, because what I want you all to think about is how many contracts have you written since January 1st, or how many job orders have you written, and what percentage of those are being filled. You know, everybody has the same issue right now, and it's that it's so hard to find talent. Well, the market is candidate driven, which means you have to change your approach with candidates. And posting and praying used to work, but it's just not effective in today's competitive job market. We're currently facing the lowest unemployment in 50 years. Your clients do not want you to present the same candidates that they're surfacing by using job boards and website postings, which only attracts 15% of the talent pool. And I got that 15% from LinkedIn. I think many of you know I do a lot of training for LinkedIn Learning. And so I have access to LinkedIn's Learning's big data. I'm part of their insider group, and every month we have a call and we're discussing, issues and problems and what people are facing. And LinkedIn has proven that companies spend billions of dollars with a B advertising on job boards and doing website postings and trying to, boost their Facebook ads or, ads on different social media sites. And it's proven that those things only attract 15% of the talent pool. And those are people that are looking and reading. They want you to present access to the other 85%. Our clients normally don't access the other 85%. Those are passive candidates who will consider a career move. Because even though unemployment is at 3%, most people working will consider a job change for the right opportunity. And job satisfaction is at historic lows. And so most people are open to look at something new. And another statistic that LinkedIn shared that I couldn't even believe was when somebody accepts a new job, a new contract, they update their LinkedIn profile and they're passively looking within 48 hours after they accept something, which of course isn't real comforting for you and I, because we want people to fill out, finish their contracts, or if we place a direct hire, we want them to stay. But people are very mobile now, and that's why this training is critically important to your success. Now let's talk about, why are passive candidates the best? Why is that 85% of the talent pool where you should be going? The best talent to fill your open job orders or contracts are employed. They have a successful track record, they've got experience, they've got credentials, they've got skills that are required by your hiring authorities. Most people don't intend to retire from their current job or their current contract, and they're often open to hear about opportunities that represent their next career move. Now, there's things you have to consider. You don't want to assume that what a candidate is currently doing is what they want to do next. That's what irritates most contractors and candidates about us, is that we always come to them pitching a job, pitching an opportunity. And they go, you know what, it's not a job I would even consider. And because we didn't take time to find out what they want to do next, they just are rude or they cut us off. Well, they cut us off because, we don't know what they want to do next. We're assuming that what they're currently doing is what they want to do next. And that's not necessarily true. The other thing is, initially when you're reaching out to people, you're a stranger that your candidate doesn't know or trust, which is why it's important to develop rapport, which leads to trust. The more you let somebody talk about themselves, the more they like you. If you call pitching and selling versus positioning yourself as someone that can help them make their next career move, they're going to cut you off. Recruiting presentations should be made every single day, because recruiting is the primary way of attracting the quality person you want to represent. Again, your clients do not want you to present the same candidates that they can surface themselves by posting on job boards or listing on the employment pages of their company websites. I just got back from RecruitCon. RecruitCon was a conference that was held in Austin, Texas 2 weeks ago. And it was all talent acquisition people, and it was major companies. It was a lot of municipalities, some governmental, groups. And of course, they found out who I was. And the question I kept getting from them throughout the 2-day conference was, why do you people give us the same people we can get on their own? When did recruiters stop recruiting? We don't want you to give us the same things. And you're all, and it was interesting because I'm always told by recruiters when I'm in front of recruiters training, we need more tools. Our owner needs to, provide us with more tools. We need more bells and whistles. Our ATS system is awful. Well, no recruiter likes their ATS system because we're salespeople and we don't like details and we don't want to put information in. But there is no perfect ATS system. Learn to use the one you have, because chances are the reason you don't like it is you're not utilizing it perfectly. But again, every person there kept asking me the same question. When we call a recruiter, we want them to give us candidates we're not finding. And the interesting thing is, Barb, in fact, I was doing a keynote and a guy stood up and he goes, I just have to say something to you, Barbara, because I will give a contract to 3 or 4 contract staffing firms and they all present me with the exact same candidates. So I know what they're doing. They're posting on the job boards because we've already got those candidates in our database. And when we say to a recruiter, we've already got that candidate, it's almost like they feel we're lying to them. But the truth of the matter is, if they're doing the same thing we're doing, why would we pay them? See, recruited candidates possess the exact experience your clients request. And this talent can hit the ground running and provide a fast return on investment for your client. And again, they don't have this person. And as a recruiter, you should provide your clients with access to the best talent available, that hidden market of overachievers who are currently successfully working for someone else. That's who they want us to represent. Now, what do you have to accomplish prior to making recruiting presentations? You just can't come in the morning and say, gee, I think I'm going to recruit on this contract, or I'm going to recruit on this job order. You've got to know your current contracts or job orders inside and out. You've got to know the selling points of each company. What have you found out from the client that is not on their website? And your salespeople should be asking that. Give me 3 selling points. Why do you work here? Give me 3 selling points of why someone should want to work at this company. Because you and I both know it's a candidate-driven marketplace. We have to sell the opportunity. You've got to understand the hot buttons of candidates in your specialty area, whether you're doing engineering, whether you're doing IT, or you've got another niche. What are the hot buttons of the candidates that you represent? If they're working as contractors, they always want to enhance their resume with every contract that they accept, because by enhancing their resume, they're improving their marketability. Because you and I both know what contractors want to do is they want to improve their marketability with every job they take, every contract they accept. So the next time they go out on a contract, they're making more money. You should have various scripts written out that stress your expertise and experience. If you're not making recruiting calls right now, if you're just sending in-mails on LinkedIn is not recruiting. That's sending in-mails on LinkedIn. And what's happening is 82% of all emails are not being returned, and almost 50% of in-mails are ignored because, quite frankly, people are tired of getting in-mails from people they don't know. And unless you present something that just happens to hit them right, a lot of people, the people that answer in-mails are salespeople because they think it might be a lead. But I speak at technology conferences, and IT and engineering candidates are tired of getting in-mails from just a ton of recruiters. They're just tired of it. You've got to identify where you stand the greatest chance of success. Where have you gotten the best candidates? You've also got to put your recruiting efforts only on your hottest contracts and orders. If you've got a purple squirrel, if you've got Mission Impossible, if you don't understand the job, you can't recruit on it. And so if a salesperson brings in a job that you absolutely don't understand at all, you've got to go to that salesperson and get a clear understanding of a job, because, again, if it's something way outside of your niche, your chances of filling it have really dramatically decreased. You've got to know the type of jobs your salespeople are bringing in. And most IT contract staffing firms and most engineering contract staffing firms are pretty specialized within that niche. It's not like you place 75 titles. You might only do project managers. You might only do Java jobs. You might, specialize on doing project managers. You've got a handful of titles. You've got to know what those are, and that allows you to pipeline in advance. but you've got to only put your recruiting efforts on the hot jobs and contracts. And you got to get excited about the opportunities you're representing. Because if you're calling and you don't know anything about the company and you don't know anything about the job, the candidate's going to sense that. And hopefully you've set up Google alerts on every company that every client that your company has. Because if I'm going to call somebody and talk to them about the job, I'm going to give them selling points of the company, once I'm talking about a specific job and a specific company. But I want to know everything that's being said about the company. I can't depend on the salespeople to educate me on the company. As a recruiter, I've got to educate myself. And so I, set up Google alerts on every client you have. And what that does is any information that is online about a client will be sent to your inbox. So you want to set up a rule in your email provider that those Google alerts go into a folder. So you make a folder for every client that you've got, and you set up a rule in Outlook or whatever, email provider you use, that when these Google alerts come in, that they go into the folder. And then before you actually go out there and present a job, you read those Google alerts. You see the recent things being said about the company, because that'll help with your excitement. You see all the things that these companies are doing. Again, these are all things that you need to do before you ever even consider making a recruiting call. I also want to give you some other ways of finding candidates that are ways you might not be doing right now. Because every time I'm in front of an audience of recruiters, it's the same thing. There is no talent. Of course there is. Most of them are working, but there's other things you can do. References listed on your application or profile form, both business and personal references, can lead to candidates. Because usually when people list references, that might be somebody one level above them, or it's a peer. If you ask for personal references, often people give their coworkers who have the same skill sets. You've got to request 3 interviews from every person you interview. And the reason often that you don't get any referrals is they think they're referring their competition. Or you ask questions like, who do you know who would be qualified? Or who do you know that would be looking? You can never say, who do you know that could be qualified, or who could be looking, or who might be interested in an opportunity or interested in working with me. What you ask is, who was the best .NET developer at your last place of employment? So ask about, at their last place of employment, who did they know? If you want people to give you referrals, they almost always say what? I don't know anybody. And of course they know people. What they're really saying to you when they say, I don't know anybody, is I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't trust you. I don't necessarily like you. You called me out of the clear blue sky, and now you're asking me to give you referrals. Why would I do that? But if you say you're networking with high qualified people, and who was the best project manager at my last job, I have no loyalty to my last job, and I will give you referrals. But if you just ask, who do I know? I think you want me to give you names of my coworkers. I'm very uncomfortable doing that because I'm still working here. And I don't know you. Why would I give you a job? But if anybody says to you, I don't know anybody, you've asked the wrong question. And so if you hear that again, you realize, wait a minute, I'm asking the wrong question. I forgot to ask, who was the best? Insert the topic from your last place of employment. You should also call the past employers of the best candidates you've interviewed since the beginning of the year. So I want you to pull out all the really outstanding contractors and candidates that you've interviewed since the beginning of the year, the ones that were outstanding. And then call their past employer, and the receptionist says they no longer work there, ask to speak to their replacement. I'm hoping somebody kept in touch. Can you send me to that department? I'm hoping somebody kept in touch with them. And then when you're sent to the department, then you recruit the replacement. You can only win in this candidate-driven market by your ability to do 2 things: send in the best talent, and send in the best talent faster and more effectively than your competition. In order to do this, you've got to consistently identify new sources of talent with job satisfaction at historic lows. Most people would consider a change. So when you're saying there are no candidates, there are no qualified people out there, it's because you're only targeting 15% of the talent pool. We're recruiters. We've got to go after that other 85%. I also want to give you some additional candidate resources. You can recruit experienced people directly from a client's competitors using search engines, online sourcing and networking, or recruiting calls. And your salespeople should be asking, is there any company that you like to hire from? Are there any companies you would never hire from? Because there are some companies that everybody likes, and there are some companies that they don't like at all, that they would never hire from, you've got to know that up front. Because you could have a great contractor that you recruited, and all of a sudden the client doesn't want to see them, and you're wondering why. Well, it's because they came from a company that this particular employer does not respect. And so they're not going to allow you to send somebody from them. You've also got to leverage networking tools like LinkedIn, blogs, chat rooms, meetups. You should be having meetups in your office. You've got to figure out where your candidates are hanging out, and you've got to hang out there too. You've got to be part of the network of the people that you're placing. This is a career. This is not an 8-to-5 job. You've got to become part of associations. You've got to be part of networking groups. And a lot of the people you place hang out online. So you've got to go where they are and hang out online with them. You've got to proactively solicit referrals from all your contacts. And they've got to see the benefit to them. I know most of you have a referral program, but you don't promote it. And half the time, in fact, when I was at the last TechServe conference, I was doing a couple roundtables at the meetups, and we were asking about referral programs. And I found it interesting that almost all of you had one. Most of you didn't even know what it was, or most of you didn't even know, how the candidates benefit by your referral program. And that's so critically important. They have to know how they can benefit. You've also got to develop a touch program for the talent in your database, consisting of emails and phone calls and text messages, autoresponders, because quite frankly, you can't be that out of sight, out of mind recruiter. You don't want to be a stalker. You don't want to constantly stalk people because then they're not going to take your calls. On the other hand, you want your name to be prevalent when they're looking for a new contract. When somebody asks them, who should I go to? Your contractors that are out there, think about this for a minute. All the contractors you currently have out on a contract, they're either your army of recruiters or they're being recruited. And I want to repeat that. And I've repeated this in a couple other programs I've done because I think this is so critical for all of you to think about this. If you've been a recruiter for longer than a year or 18 months, 40% of your candidates should come from referrals, because referrals can give you those candidates that are passively looking too. Referrals and recruiting, the 2 R's, that's where you should be getting most of your people. And if that's not your case, if you're always going out there saying there is no talent and people aren't, referring people to you, then you're not nurturing them. They're not hearing from you. They feel you placed them and forgot them. And other people are going to recruit them. Other people that are nurturing are going to get that great talent right out from under you. Think about how your life would change as a recruiter if you redeployed most of the contractors you got out there. Because the percentage right now in IT and engineering for redeployment is 10%. And in many cases, it's under 10%. I do in-house training for a lot of TechServe members, and I can tell you, this is something I always bring up to the owners. What is your percentage of redeployment? And I'm shocked when sometimes I hear it's 3%, it's under 5%. That's a lost opportunity. You've got to have a touch program. When you've got a contractor out there, you've got to know when their birthday is. You've got to know everything about them. What teams do they back? What do they like? What don't they like? And you've got to be touching them. If you want to redeploy them, they've got to feel that you care about them. You can't place them and forget them, especially recruited candidates. Because you know how contractors feel? And I think this is kind of sad. The last technology conference I went to, I was interacting with it was all people that we place. And so I was asking them about, redeploying, and most of them felt that they're going to share the wealth. That the recruiter made money on them for X amount of months, and they know that every hour they work, the recruiter is making money, and the recruiter doesn't care about them anyway. They just view them as a source of revenue, so they spread the wealth. They don't view you as a lifetime career agent, which is what they should. When you recruit somebody, you want to position yourself as their lifetime agent. That's why a touch program is so critical, You also want to develop a database of future prospects. You've got to know what contracts are being brought in the office, what job orders are being brought in the office, and you've got a pipeline in advance of demands. Because remember the 2 things I told you have to do in this marketplace? You've got to recruit the best talent, but you've got to recruit them faster than your competition. And often you don't have a lot of time to react. If you're working under a VMS situation, you've got hours to react. You've got a limited time to react, and you can only submit so many candidates. And that's why you've got to develop a pipeline in advance. And the only way to do that is recruiting and referrals. You've got to obtain resources from your candidates. And again, it's so funny, when we find a really unique resource, almost always our candidates gave us the resource and it's free. I haven't met a recruiter that doesn't want their owner to buy more tools, but I've got news for you. You know what the best tool is that any recruiting firm could have is you. It's a resourceful, qualified recruiter who really knows how to recruit and network. You're the best tool your company could possibly have. All these, we started out being very high touch. Recruiters were very high touch, and then technology came on the scene and it's changed everything. What we do now doesn't resemble even what we did 5 years ago, but it's still a relationship building business. And if you just ask your candidates, where do you go when you're looking for a job? Ask every candidate you interview, where do you go when you're looking for a job? I don't want to duplicate any of the things that you've done on your own. So what resources do you use? So often they will give you sites, they will give you resources that are all free where they hang out. And now you use those resources. You should be identifying, if you're an experienced recruiter, you should identify a new resource for candidates every quarter that does not cost any money. And again, I'm going to repeat that. If you're an experienced recruiter, imagine if you've been a recruiter for 4 years and you've got 16 resources for candidates. You're not dependent on job boards. You're not posting and praying, because every quarter you develop one new resource for candidates. And then you look at, where am I getting the best candidates from? And you put more attention on the resources that are really giving you the best candidates. And again, these aren't going to be people that your clients have. Remember, they don't want to see the same people that they're getting, and they're spending billions of dollars on job board ads and website postings and some of the social media sites, and they've got the same LinkedIn recruiter tools that you have. It's how do you dig deeper? How do you get those candidates to basically refer you to others that nobody has? You want to be known to get talent that no one has. Now, what kind of recruiting presentations result in hit? When completing your recruiting presentations, you've got to keep the following facts in mind. Number one, you've got to determine what they see as their next career move. Candidates don't want to make a lateral, they want their next career move. For an individual to make a job change, there has to be something of major significance that they do not like about their current situation. You've got to find what that is. And so ask them, what are the 5 things you change about your current job if you were your boss? That's how you find out why they're leaving. What are the 5 things you change about your current job if you were your boss? Most people do not make change only for money. Money is always a part of the decision, but you've got to uncover their hot buttons. And often people are quitting a person, not a company. And that's why sometimes our candidates quit their contracts before the end of the contract, because we put them in a situation that they wanted, but we forgot to keep in touch, and they hated their boss. They loved the company, they liked the opportunity, they hated their boss. So next thing we know, the client's calling us and saying your contractor quit. That's why it's so important to develop the trust and rapport, because the more trust and rapport you develop, the better chance you have of representing this person, more than once, and the better chance you have of them working out their contract and basically feeling like you care about them. The other thing you have to remember when you're recruiting is they don't care about what you think is best for them. Take your direction from them. Keep your opinions to yourself. Don't present lateral moves. They've got to see where the position leads. Talk about how it enhances their resume. Talk about their performance objectives. How are they going to be judged when they're out there on this contract? Or how are they going to be judged, if they're taking a full-time job? That's what we have to know. Just looking at a list of skills and credentials that are needed doesn't really tell you what this job is. It just tells you this list of skills that they need. But, can you talk to them about how they're going to be judged? What they're going to learn, how it enhances their resume. You've got to listen twice as much as you talk. We talk too much. And we've got to learn to listen twice as much as we talk. You've also got to clarify answers and definitions of words used, because you want to position yourself as that lifetime career agent. Recruiting presentations must be completed every single day without exception. And what I would say, if you're not recruiting every day, what I would suggest all of you do, and I know this isn't going to be easy, I would suggest you block out 1 hour on your calendar starting tomorrow. And you block out 9 to 10, or if you have meetings first thing in the morning, maybe 10 to 11, but block out an hour on your calendar every day starting tomorrow. And that's when you're making outgoing recruiting presentations, because your clients expect results and your reputation is on the back of every person you represent. They're not paying us to give them the best candidate that happens to answer a posting we have out there. They don't expect that. They want us to send them the best person available. Focused, consistent recruiting is the only way to do that. And it's the best way to satisfy the needs of your company faster than your competition. Your competition is posting and praying. And I can tell you that most of the companies that I do consulting for are posting and praying. Technology changed everything. And all of a sudden we forgot that the best candidates are still out there not answering anything that's going on. They're too busy doing their job. So again, it's referrals and it's recruiting. Now, goals in recruiting are the following. Convert the prospect into a candidate. You're going to receive leads from this person to top talent or well-networked individuals. Remember, who is the best person they know. Obtain a personal email so you can add them to your database, send them articles of interest and lists of the current opportunities you have. You will get, if you send somebody something in writing that shows a list of opportunities out there, but you give them an article of interest and the subject line of your email basically has the title of the article, they'll open it. If you say, how do you negotiate the best raise? How do you really, what is your best next career move? Or you give them, some kind of title like that. The interesting thing about that is they'll open it based on the subject line and they love the article. They will share that article with their database, with their address book. They're also going to share a list of jobs. People love when they know about a job to tell other people about it. And most people know somebody that would change their job. They're not going to give it to you, but if you send them an article of interest, every month, every other month, and you've got a list of current opportunities, you'll be amazed at how that lateral marketing happens. So, you want that personal email address so you can send this to them. Try to get their cell phone number, because most of the people that you place can't talk during the day. Engineers and IT professionals do not have private offices, and half the time their coworkers are right around them. Just make that initial contact. Say you'd love to, discuss their career with them. Don't pitch jobs. What you want to pitch is a conversation. I'd love to have a discussion with you to hear what you see as your next career move. I would love to talk to you about your career. Don't pitch a job. They're going to be much more apt to talk to you if you just want to have a discussion about their career. You want to develop rapport and trust. And then you want to provide appropriate job opportunities faster than your competition does. Your goal should be to become their lifetime career agent. And you should say that to them. But that's not something that they're going to, just do. It's something that you've got to earn. Ask them their long-term goals. Where do you want to be in 10 years? Have you ever asked a contractor that? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Let's get you the type of contract assignments that are going to let you end up there, because now they're viewing you as somebody that's helping them plan out their career. Again, establish a network and pipeline of top talent in advance of need and advertise your niche, in your firm. I'm not talking about paid advertising. I'm talking that when you're out there and you're making these recruiting presentations, that basically what you're doing is you're advertising yourself, you're advertising your niche, and you're advertising your firm. I mentioned this earlier, but I've got to come back to this because this will change your life. And that's the 6 most powerful words that result in recruiting hits. And those words are, who you don't want to ask who they know. You don't want to ask, top talent. What you want to ask is, who is the best person from your last place of employment? Because when you do, when you ask, who do you know? They say, I don't know anybody, and again, we know they know people, but if you say, who was the best, whatever, from your last place of employment, this is where you will dramatically change your results, because they can't say, I don't know anybody. Of course they know the best person from their last place of employment. If your conversation is moving along smoothly, then you want to ask, from the place of employment before that. Most people have worked at a couple, 3 places. And so you can get 2 or 3 really good leads from past places of employment, and again, it's just adding those 6 words. Now, let's talk about recruiting presentations that result in hits, because, it does one thing to tell you to do this. It's another thing to give you scripts that you can use. You've got to learn your area of specialization or niche from your owner or manager, so you can use appropriate terms during your recruiting presentation. The best way to educate yourself about a specific job is to interview 10 people who had the job. If I'm placing a .NET developer and I don't even know what a .NET developer does, It's going to be horrible for me to try to go out there and sound like I know what I'm doing. And so you don't want to wait till you're 100% prepared to start making your recruiting calls. Get an overview, print out job descriptions of .NET developer. There's tons of them online. And then with every call, what you're going to do, you're making every call a learning experience. But once you've got the basic knowledge from your owner or manager, you've done your own research online, and you've interviewed 10 candidates, you're going to sound like an expert. You now know what a .NET developer does. The person on the other end of the phone doesn't know what your call should sound like. And you've got to be comfortable knowing that. Because if you haven't made recruiting calls in a long time, you're going to trip over yourself a little bit. But if you've taken the time to practice your 30-second pitch, you know why they should use you and your company better than anybody else. And we've covered those topics in prior, the webinars I've done for TechServe. You're going to sound better than most recruiters who have called them previously. And so if you don't have a good, strong 30-second pitch, or you don't know your brand, that's all information that I've covered in prior webinars that I've done for TechServe, and those are all on their website. And so if you need to go back there and look at those so that you've got that, please do that, because you've got to know why someone should use you. The problem with most recruiting calls, they all sound alike. We even resort to some of the verbiage used by tacky salespeople, like, good morning, my name is Barb Bruno, and how are you today? You might as well just tell a person, hi, my name is Barb Bruno, and I'm a salesperson, and I'm nervous, because that's what nervous salespeople do. And unless you know me, I'm not going to tell you how I am, so you want to try to accomplish the following when you're making recruiting presentations. You want to set yourself up as an expert in their profession who has access to great opportunities that are not advertised. You want to let it be known that you place your reputation on every person you represent, so you only represent the best. You want to develop trust. Candidates have to feel you have their best interest at heart. They should not feel that you're selling a specific job or a specific contract and only representing one specific company. Discuss their goals, plans, and career. Let them talk about themselves, because they will like you more. You want to ask non-threatening questions. I'd love to talk to you about where you see your career going. Share your track record. Your track record is your brand and differentiator, that you've placed people just like them. You've helped people just like them make their next career move. Schedule a time to talk about their career goals. Your goal when you're making recruiting calls is not to pitch a job. It's to basically schedule a time to talk about their career goals. You're trying to schedule a conversation to find out what's most important to them. You'll have many more hits. You'll have many more people want to talk to you when you're just trying to schedule a conversation, not pitching something to them. And you want to attempt to develop initial candidate rapport. Now, I want to give you a general recruiting skip. You could say, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Barb Bruno. I was inspired to call you when I received your resume or I saw your LinkedIn profile. You have outstanding experience, and I've placed several candidates with similar experience in great companies, and they're doing great. But I don't want to assume for a minute that what you're doing is what you want to do. When would it be best for us to continue this discussion? I just want to continue a discussion. I could say I was inspired. If you've got credentials, if you see their LinkedIn profile, if you've got a resume or they submitted one, you can use this particular call. What if somebody referred a candidate to you? You can say, my name is Barb Bruno. I was referred to you by so-and-so. I work for the best blah, blah, blah firm. We're always attempting to attract the best talent, which is why the people we place are retained. When I asked whoever referred me for the name of the best person from their last place of employment, you were the first person they mentioned. In fact, they share something that they said so that they know you talked to one of their past, coworkers. I'd love to arrange a time when we could talk so I can understand what's most important to you in your next career move. Now, if the candidate does not want you to use their name, you can just say that you were referred. If they ask by who, you can say, I'm representing that person in a confidential search, the one who referred me. And if I had the opportunity to represent you, I'd extend that same level of confidentiality. If the candidate is not interested, tell them you're networking with top talent, and would they share the name of the best .NET developer at their last place of employment, or the best electrical engineer at their last place of employment. If they say yes, set up a time in the evening to discuss their career goals and conduct a general interview. Get detailed information and know their hot buttons before you present an opportunity. If you present the right type of opportunity, you're going to gain trust and the interest of this new candidate. If you have nothing that fits them, okay, what you need to tell them is that when you have something that represents the opportunity that they just described, if it crosses your desk, you'll call them and make sure you know the companies they would never work for and why, because that helps you identify their priorities and identify recruiting targets. If you keep hearing the same name from candidates, I'd never worked there, and they tell you why, those are great places to recruit out of. But you should be asking everybody, where do you want to work and why, and where would you never work and why? Because where they want to work, that's where you want to market them. If the candidate says no, tell them you would still like to get to know them for any future needs they may have. You know, even though they're not interested now, ask them if there's any situations that you should make them aware of. A great question to ask is, do you plan to retire from your current position? Because often they'll say, well, I'm not interested now, I'm happy, I'm not looking, I'm not this, I'm not that. But if you say, do you plan to retire from your current job? Almost everybody will say no to that particular question. Email an introductory letter and a sampling of your current opportunities, no names, of course, of the clients, you know, for them to contact you, you know, or send you to. And what you want to do is you just want to get them in a database that you're touching, because you've got a personal email address. And again, you're sending, you know, possible opportunities. Now, there's some do's and don'ts of recruiting that I think is also important for us to cover. And I know this call is going longer than most of our calls. And the reason for this is I think this is one of the most important calls that I'm doing. And that's why I'm trying to cover a lot of information. And again, if anybody on your recruiting team is not on this call, make sure they listen to this call. Some of the do's of recruiting. You do want to state that putting your career in the hands of an experienced recruiter is the best passive way for you to be open to top opportunities in your profession. If I know what's important to you, I know when to reach out to you. Number two, the more successful you are at addressing the what's in it for me issue, the more successful you'll become with your recruiting efforts. It's all about them. What do you see as your next career move? What's most important? Remember, you're scheduling a conversation. You're not scheduling the chance to pitch a specific job. Always remember that your prospective candidates do not care about your opinions. It's all about them, and stick to facts. You know, whatever is most important to them. And you want to role play recruiting calls. You'll be amazed at some of the things you're saying. This is a prove-it method to most effectively improve your script, your style, and your ability to overcome objections. What you should do is you should get your team of recruiters in a room and try to recruit each other. Tell them, you know, let them be the candidate, you're the recruiter, and then let them critique what you're saying. You know, and I also gave you a voicemail that most people return, because I keep hearing, well, nobody returns a voicemail. They will, but you can't call and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I saw your resume. I have a job I think is a great fit. Please call me back. Because I'm thinking, you don't know me. How do you know that's a fit? And you might have even mentioned the job, and I know it's not a fit. I'm not going to call you back. So you can't call selling me something and ask me to call you back. So use the voicemail scripts that we've also done in prior calls. Now let's get to some of the don'ts. You don't want to pitch a specific job. You don't want to appear that you care more about the client. I can tell you, I do a call for job seekers every week, and I have at least 1,500 job seekers on the call every single week, and they don't know who I am. I just get on the phone and go, hi, welcome to this week's job seeker call. They have no clue who I am, and they complain about us all the time. And what they say about recruiters is all recruiters care about is their clients. They don't care about us. You know, we've got to stop that. It's a candidate-driven marketplace. We've got to let them know that we truly want to help them make the move that makes sense for them. And you don't want to sell before you know what's important to a candidate. We've got to wait to find out what's most important to them and then present appropriate opportunities. Lastly, I mentioned this a little bit through my webinar today, but there's gold in your database. You want to set up at least a bi-monthly email to your candidate database in order to promote lateral marketing. When you send a relevant article and the topic is in the subject line and a list of jobs, your candidates will forward it to their contacts. Every time we do this, we get qualified candidates. Now we have some candidates that think they're qualified, but we're very precise on our list. You know, we're listing jobs of, you know, the things that have to be there and the performance objectives so they know how they're going to be judged. We include that on the list. But I'm telling you, this is, again, one of the best ways to have something automated, you know, working to try to help you also enhance your candidate flow. Follow the advice and you're going to recruit the best talent. But what's most important is if you follow this advice, you're going to fill more jobs. You're going to fill more contracts and you're going to make more money. I think most of you know, I've met many of you at the TechServe conferences. and I've met many of you on some of these calls before, you know, and again, you know that the reason I train is one reason only. Well, two reasons. I want your owner to be more profitable. I want your owner to be as profitable as they can be so they can keep offering you this training and they can, you know, continue as a member of TechServe Alliance because they're profitable. You work for one of the best companies in the country. I want you all to know that right now, because the best companies work for TechServe. They belong to TechServe. And the other thing I want you to do is make more money. So I train so your owner can be profitable and you can make more money. So now I'm going to open the lines. I think this is the most important part of the call, is your questions. And you can ask me questions one of two ways. Go to the control panel on the right. If you, when you called in, if you put a telephone number, a PIN number, and an access code, toward the top on the left-hand side of the control panel, you see the orange circle with the question mark. If you click on that, I can unmute your lines and you and I can talk. I'm willing to role play. I'm willing to do anything, answer any questions you have. And it doesn't have to be about today's topic. That's why TechServe brings me to you live, because they want me to answer questions. Or if you prefer not to, you know, have me unmute your lines, what you could do is go to the bottom of the page and you see the word questions. If you click on that, it opens a dialog box and I'll be glad to answer any questions. If you don't want me to use your first name, to use your name, please put confidential or anonymous before you type in your question. Okay, let's see. This is from Ashley. Do you have any suggestions on tools or software that help you create, wait, let me get the rest of this. Help you create a touch program for candidates. I think that any autoresponder works well, and there's a ton of autoresponders. You know, One Shopping Cart has an autoresponder. If you just Google autoresponders, and many of the CRMs and ATS systems have, you know, that capability. So what you've got to do is ask your ATM provider, you know, or that if they have any kind of autoresponder. You don't want to use something like MailChimp, because that just sends it out once. You want to be able to develop emails in advance. Like every year, we have like 90 autoresponder series in my training company and in my my staffing firm. And it's interesting because we write them once and then we just have to put a person's name and email address and they get the 12 emails or the 10 emails and we tell them how often to send it. So it's something that can be automated. But look up autoresponder series and there's a ton of them out there and they're not expensive. Let's see, recruiting passive candidates has its risks. Aren't you kissing a potential client goodbye if you recruit their employees away from them? We used to call this poaching and it wasn't very well received. Do you mention a referral fee in your email to current openings? Number one, we would never recruit out of a client. You're either a client or you're a source. And so we never, ever recruit our candidates out of our clients. We would never make a recruiting call into somebody who is the client. And so you've got to be very careful how to do that. And I'm telling you that there are a lot of people making recruiting calls, and you're right. And the way it used to be done, you must have been a recruiter for a long time, because we used to be called body peddlers and it was poaching and all, you know, but people are realizing that recruiting calls are the only way to find that hidden marketplace of talent, because they're not in an active job search. And you have to be very professional when you do it. And if somebody is extremely happy, you're going to ask them for referrals. And so you're actually going in asking them for referrals, and often they will say, well, what about me? You know, so you can do more of an indirect recruiting presentation if in fact you don't want to do a direct one. I was calling to see, you know, who you would know from your last place of employment that you might, you know, whose name you might be willing to share with me. We represent many different opportunities. And so you can do more of an indirect call if that makes you, you know, if that makes you more comfortable, but you got to get out there and talk to people that are working. You know, we can't keep all going after that 15%. I don't mention a referral fee into the email with the current opportunities every time, Adam. I will do it every so often. We'll talk about our referral program. And just so all of you know, and this is kind of something, and I've talked about this to TechServe members for years, because I've been at your conference for probably 15 years now. And I always ask owners, do you get more referrals from the contractors you place or the contractors you don't place? And we all get more referrals from the contractors we don't place. Because the contractors we place, for some reason, they don't feel nurtured often. They don't even come back to us for redeployment. And we did what they wanted us to do. We got them a good contractor, a good job. The people that we haven't found something for, they still want us to help them. And so they're more inclined to give us names. So don't discount the people that you don't place. Don't only go to get referrals from the people you've placed in jobs. So you got to, you know, when you know you can't place somebody, you've got to be honest with them. Provide them with resources. You know, because, you know, We only place 5% of who comes to us, but that other 95%, they know people that you could place. But their experience has to be positive. Provide them with resources, nurture them as well, and you'll get referrals from them. How do you start to organize a database of 10 plus years of resumes? First, what I want to do is I want to do something. The first thing I'm going to do is I have somebody that is not, a revenue generator for me go in, and we're going to send something out to see how much of our database is even current and how much bounces. Because after 10 years, probably a lot of the emails that you have are not emails. It's not even, current information. And so the information you have is dated. And you could hire somebody, even you could go on a resource like Upwork. You could tell your owner about, you must be an owner because you're looking to organize your database. Upwork is, the virtual people that work all over the world. And you can find somebody in the Philippines to work very cheaply to do a project like this, and you figure out, what are you looking for in your database? But I would start out with contact information. Is the email address bouncing? Do we even have any way to talk to this person? Or do you want to have somebody actually calling, seeing if phone numbers are accurate, to update, or send something out and let them something of value and get them to double opt in back into your database, and offer that you're going to have an article of interest every 2 weeks. You're going to start doing meetups, give them a reason to want to update, to get information from you. And that's the quickest way to get a nice, clean, updated database is if people double opt in, but they have to see the reason why they're doing that. They have to understand why they would do that for you. But that was where I want to start there. Do I even have current information? And then I can start segmenting it out once I know that I've got people with, legitimate contact information. That's why I always ask for the home email. They change the home email address much less often than they change their business email address. All right, I don't see any more questions. Let me go up on top and see if anybody raised their hand. Ashley, I see your hand raised. Ashley, I've unmuted you. Was there something else you wanted to ask?
Nope, I'm good.
You're done. Okay, good. Let me mute you. It was just so nice having somebody raise their hand. And when I talk to people, when I answer questions, you guys, we can get into a lot more than just an answer to one question. So I really do encourage you, to raise that hand. Let's see. And by the way, all of you that have taken the certification program, there is a level 2, and the level 2 really tests your knowledge. It's case studies. And so any of you that have taken level 1 of the certification program, I really do challenge you to take level 2 because it's case studies. So the answer is not there. Where level 1, you've got multiple choice. You've got 1 out of 4 chances, you're going to get the right answer. Level 2 is case studies. It's the same body of knowledge, but it really shows you if you understand how to apply what you've learned through the certification program. I would love to see, in the next 6 months that we set some records on the people that sit for the level 2 exam. So I do want to put that challenge out there. Or if you're not certified, please consider it because this training is just a small segment of what's included in the certification program. Now, I do see somebody asking how they can get the recording. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Caitlin, if you could explain where they can get the recording.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barb. That was really informative, and I really do hope that people either use this as a resource now or put it back in front of their team. So the recording will be sent out to all registrants either this afternoon or early tomorrow, and that goes for all of our webinars as well. So if just pro tip, if you are interested in the topic but are not sure that you'll be able to make it live, register anyway. And then you'll get the recording and slides delivered directly to your inbox so that you can review it whenever you want. So actually, it'll be in your inbox very soon. I also wanted to really quickly tell everyone that our next upcoming webinar is on the 6th. It's titled, Gain Confidence in Your I-9 Process, and that will be presented in conjunction with EmployStream. I think there's a lot of interest there as well. That'll be at 12:30 Eastern as well, so please feel free to register on our website. And finally, I just wanted to add that I, Caitlin, am available as a resource for any questions you have about the certification program, cost, study guide, really anything. Both I and Barb would be really happy to talk you through the program just to see.
Right, and I want to add one thing, Caitlin, if you don't mind too. Think about this. Think about the candidates you represent. Most of them have certifications. And so when it comes to IT and engineering, those are the 2 niche areas that really value certifications. And this is the only certification in the country that is 2/3 best practices. It tests you on what you do every day. And so, you know, it just differentiates you in this very competitive marketplace. You put it on your LinkedIn profile. And if anybody on this call decides to get certified, and you get certified before the end of July, you make up your mind now and get certified before the end of July, anybody on this particular call, I will give you a personal recommendation on your LinkedIn profile. So Caitlin, you've got to track that for me. But if anybody signs up after this call and they get certified before the end of July, I will give them a recommendation on LinkedIn.
Okay, perfect. I hope that our listeners are able to take advantage of that. So I think that's it for us today. Thank you again so much, Barb. I hope everyone got some value from this presentation. There is a quick survey that pops up after you close out of the webinar. So we'd really appreciate it if you filled that out with feedback, suggestions for future topics, all of that good stuff. So with that, thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.